A German U-boat commander boards a Canadian passenger train in September 1943. He carries forged papers, speaks fluent English, and has traveled 1,400 kilometers through enemy territory. Military checkpoints seemingly wave him through. Police patrols seem to ignore him. His destination, a remote Atlantic beach where a Nazi submarine waits to extract him. Yet, Canadian intelligence officers have been watching his every move through binoculars. They know his real name, Wolfgang Heyda, captain of U-434, and they decoded his escape plans months ago. The Canadians could have arrested him at any moment, but instead, they've now lit up an abandoned lighthouse to guide him to the rendezvous point. It turns out that they have eyes on something far more valuable than an escaped prisoner. Indeed, it's all part of an insane plan. They intend to capture an entire German U-boat intact in Canadian waters. The year 1940 marked the unleashing of a new hunter onto the tempestuous North Atlantic. From German shipyards emerged the U-99, a fearsome Type 7B submarine. At over 66 meters, it stretched longer than two commercial jetliners. The 753-ton Predator could surge at nearly 18 knots on the surface, or slip away at 8 knots beneath the waves, a surprising speed for a sub. Armed with 5 torpedo tubes and a potent deck gun, it could plunge to 220 meters, a silent realm deeper than most contemporaries could pursue. Its commander, Captain Lieutenant Otto was already a legend of the U-boat war. He forged his path from cruisers to mastering submarine command. Kretschmer honed his daring one torpedo, one ship surface attack tactic aboard U-23 and U-99. Known as Silent Otto, he carved a fearsome reputation in stealth, mastering silent electric motor glides through convoys, refusing radio silence. By March 1941, U-99's log was brimming with sunken enemy vessels. On the 17th of that month, the Swedish freighter Korshan plunged beneath the waves, victim to the last of U-99's torpedoes. With her mission accomplished, the submarine settled into a quieter pace, its batteries recharging, its crew anticipating a return to port. But a young watch officer, with his eyes glued to the periscope, caught a faint, dark smudge on the horizon. A British destroyer. Ignoring Kretschmer's strict rule about maintaining concealment, the officer, in a moment of panic or ambition, barked the command to submerge. The U-99 plunged, its silent hunt abruptly shattered by the thunderous roar of its own ballast tanks flooding. The sudden, telltale sound resonated through the water. For U-99, the British destroyers HMS Walker and HMS Vanek were a nightmare made real. Their hulls bristled with potent 4.7-inch guns and specialized anti-submarine weaponry, ready to strike. Their Aztec sonars, advanced detectors of underwater sound, immediately locked on to the fleeing U-boat. They closed in. The first depth charges plummeted, erupting in bone-shattering concussions that reverberated through U-99's very structure. The U-boat was driven deeper and deeper, far beyond its recognized structural limits. The metal groaned in protest. The bulkhead screamed. Damage spread swiftly and catastrophically. The commander understood the dire truth. Their situation was irretrievable. The only path forward was to surface. The crippled U-99 clawed its way to the surface, breaking through the waves to the grim light of day. But there was no respite. A barrage of gunfire instantly raked the submarine, tearing into its exposed casing. Escape was impossible. Kretschmer, ever the leader, kept his voice calm amidst the maelstrom, signaling across the churning water to Captain Donald McIntyre of HMS Walker, quote, "Captain to Captain, I am sinking. Please rescue my crew." He then gave the order to scuttle his prized submarine, ensuring its secrets would not fall into enemy hands. Amidst the swirling chaos and the frigid grip of the Atlantic, some brave souls aboard U-99 were lost, including an engineering officer who, with immense selflessness, re-entered the flooding vessel to hasten its descent and prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Yet Kretschmer, despite the overwhelming chill, personally assisted many of his men, helping them clamber onto the rescue nets extended by the British vessels. As the freezing waters began to take their toll on him, a resolute British sailor descended, pulling Silent Otto from the sea's icy embrace. 40 U-boat men were brought aboard the destroyers, now prisoners of war. As a memento of his triumph, Captain McIntyre retained Kretschmer's binoculars. This profound setback for the German Navy, swiftly followed by the similar captures of other top U-boat commanders like Joachim Schepke and Gunther Prien, sent a ripple of alarm through the Kriegsmarine High Command. Losing such celebrated figures, aces of the Atlantic, was a blow that threatened to diminish the morale of their submarine arm. A daring, audacious plan to retrieve these high-value assets began to form in the minds of the German strategists. After his capture, the legendary Silent Otto was subjected to intense interrogation in England. His British captors, expecting a rigid ideologue, were taken aback by his composure and unexpected candor. Kretschmer, confronted with photographs of war's impact on London, displayed genuine shock that his countrymen had targeted such a symbol. He spoke English with ease and maintained a calm, quiet demeanor. He admitted that the relentless toll of the conflict had wearied him, the constant sinking of vessels no longer bringing satisfaction. Even in captivity, his nation honored his valor. He was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with oak leaves and swords, a high distinction, and received a promotion to corvette captain. Meanwhile, across the vast Atlantic, a seemingly ordinary institution underwent a transformation. The Bowmanville Boys Training School near Lake Ontario, a place of learning and reform, ceased its original operations in 1941. The Canadian government had taken possession, intending to confine prisoners of war within its walls. Over roughly 7 months, the school grounds were converted. Towering barbed wire fences sprang up, encircling the perimeter. 9 guard towers rose, casting long shadows. New gates and barracks completed the stark metamorphosis. By late 1941, the first contingent of German U-boat men began to arrive. This new facility, now known as Camp 30, would become the unwilling residence for many, including Otto Kretschmer. The spirit of defiance pulsed within Camp 30. Barely a month after its opening, on November 23, 1941, a prisoner named Ulrich Steinhelper made a daring break for freedom. He eluded his captors for 2 days before being brought back. Undeterred, he soon attempted a second flight, only to be recaptured again. Then, in December, another captive tried a cunning trick, attempting to slip away hidden in a laundry truck. But vigilance prevailed, and he was discovered. These were audacious attempts, born of desperation and an unyielding will for liberty. Yet none could compare in sheer audacity and meticulous planning to the grand design of Operation Kibitz. By 1942, the High Command of the Kriegsmarine had digested the profound impact of losing its most celebrated submarine commanders. The capture of Kretschmer, alongside other grievous losses, struck at the very heart of morale. The Nazis, ever mindful of propaganda, saw Kretschmer's plight as both a wound and an opportunity. Retrieving such a high-caliber official from enemy hands would not just be a tactical victory. It would be a colossal propaganda coup, a testament to their unwavering commitment and ingenuity. Thus, Operation Kibitz was conceived, an elaborate, perilous undertaking to liberate several key U-boat commanders from Camp 30, including the legendary Silent Otto. These men were to break out of Camp 30 and embark on an extraordinary journey, a 1,400-kilometer odyssey across the sprawling Canadian landscape, roughly the distance between Dallas and New York. Their destination, Pointe de Maisonnette, a remote strip of land on Chateau Bay in northern New Brunswick, on Canada's eastern seaboard. There, under the cover of darkness, the German U-boat would await them, a beacon of freedom in the vast enemy-held waters. The first delicate threads of the plot were spun through what seemed to be an innocuous channel, the International Committee of the Red Cross. Within seemingly innocent prisoner letters, coded messages, dense with instructions and coordinates, began to filter into and out of Camp 30. But what the Germans did not know, could not have known, was that Canadian military intelligence and keen-eyed police officers were already intercepting and meticulously cracking every single piece of prisoner communication. Every word, every seemingly random cipher was laid bare. A strategic decision was made. The Canadian authorities resolved not to reveal their hand. They would allow the meticulously planned escape attempt to proceed. This was no casual oversight. The Royal Canadian Navy, with an audacious gamble, envisioned a prize far greater than merely attempting an escape. a rare, tantalizing chance to ensnare a German U-boat in Canadian waters. Such a capture would be an intelligence triumph of unparalleled magnitude for the Allied navies, a treasure trove of technology and operational secrets. And so, the unsuspecting prisoners at Camp 30 pressed forward with their elaborate preparations, their every move watched by unseen eyes. For months leading up to its targeted September 1943 execution, a hidden world of furious activity flourished beneath Camp 30. The prisoners became master excavators, secretly digging intricate tunnel systems. Their ingenuity was remarkable. One tunnel, tucked away in the northeast corner of Victoria Hall, was a mere 50 by 50 centimeters, yet boasted impressive lighting and ventilation, crafted from scavenged tin cans. Wooden supports, pilfered from camp attics, shored up the earth every few feet. Dirt, the telltale sign of their clandestine labor, was transported via a crude but effective trolley system, and hoisted through a hidden hole in the ceiling into the attics above. The German prisoners, toiling in the damp, claustrophobic darkness, believed their operation was shrouded in absolute secrecy. They celebrated each load of dirt hauled, each foot of progress burrowed. However, the carefully laid plan was unexpectedly compromised. The sheer weight of excavated soil in the attic became too great, causing a significant section of the ceiling to groan and partially collapse. This undeniable evidence made it impossible for the guards to continue feigning ignorance of the tunneling. So when September of that year arrived, the German prisoners believed their moment of triumph was at hand. But beyond the wire, the Canadian authorities, now compelled to act due to the exposed tunnels, tightened their net. As the prisoners made their final preparations, poised to put their audacious plan into action, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties, moved in. Alongside them, military guards swept through the camp. The main group of conspirators, caught in the act, found their dreams of freedom abruptly shattered. The tunnels, the painstaking, dirt-stained fruit of so many desperate hours, were immediately targeted. Explosive charges and heavy machinery tore through the earth, collapsing the hidden passages in a roar of crumbling soil and splintering wood. The elaborate subterranean world, a symbol of their defiance, was extinguished in moments, trapping their aspirations beneath tons of earth. Yet, in that chaotic, crushing moment of intervention, one figure moved with desperate, lightning-quick improvisation. Wolfgang Heyda, a Kriegsmarine officer, captain at the U-434, refused to be ensnared. Heyda, a U-boat commander, forged his early naval career aboard the cruiser Köln, serving the mighty Admiral Scheer. Leading U-434, he unleashed its might against convoys. During a relentless Atlantic pursuit, his submarine was cornered by destroyers and critically struck, leading to his capture and Allied confinement at Camp 30. As the crackdown descended, Heyda's eyes darted, locking on to an improbable lifeline, electrical cables stretching across the camp walls. With a burst of frantic energy, he fashioned a crude zip wire. He launched himself into the air, hurtling over the barbed wire fences that had seemed impenetrable, defying the immediate sweep of guards. The alarm shrieked, echoing across the campgrounds. Search parties were instantly mobilized. Police sirens wailed, slicing through the night as a massive response was hurled into the pursuit. But Heyda proved maddeningly elusive. He melted into the darkness, navigating the unfamiliar terrain with an almost preternatural calm, somehow slipping through the initial cordon of frantic pursuit. He was a man with a singular purpose, and every second gained was a victory. Instead of fleeing into the wilderness, he calmly walked into the Bowmanville train station. There, he purchased a ticket after defying a military lockdown. He then boarded a Canadian National Railway's passenger train. The iron wheels began to turn, steadily carrying him away south through Ontario, towards eastern Canada's vast, unknown expanse. His journey was long, a winding traverse through the Canadian landscape. He connected to another train in Montreal, a sprawling urban hub. A place where a lone, determined figure could easily blend into the ebb and flow of everyday life. From Montreal, he continued his eastward passage, deeper into the maritime provinces, the train rumbling onward toward Bathurst, a coastal town on the very edge of his ultimate destination. Each mile covered was a small victory. Then came the moment of truth. a jolt of ice through his veins. A Canadian Army cordon at Grand Anse. This was the precise type of obstacle Heyda knew he might encounter, a final barrier before his rendezvous point. Soldiers, their rifles ready, their gazes sharp, stopped the train. Passengers were questioned, and papers were meticulously checked. Heyda, his heart surely pounding beneath his carefully maintained calm, presented his forged identity papers and travel documents. The soldiers scrutinized them, their eyes moving over the details. But the forgeries, meticulously prepared by German intelligence, held up. His papers were deemed in order. A Canadian officer, seemingly casual, even offered him a piece of advice, tinged with unwitting irony, quote, "Don't walk on the beach late in the evening." Heyda, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips, thanked the patrol, nodded, and proceeded onward. He had faced his greatest immediate threat and walked through it, seemingly unnoticed. The long journey concluded, and Wolfgang Heyda arrived at Pointe de Maisonnette. The setting sun bled across the vast expanse of Charleroi Bay, painting the sky in fiery hues that soon faded to the deep indigo of dusk. His head thrumming with a desperate hope, Heyda found refuge in a shed, a mere 200 meters from the iconic Maisonnette Point lighthouse. As true darkness descended, cloaking the coastline, Heyda produced his blue light signal lamp. Twice, he gave the prearranged signal into the vast, churning waters. He strained his eyes, scanning the inky horizon, searching for a reply, a flash of light, any indication that his comrades had arrived. But the bay remained stubbornly dark, unresponsive. A chilling doubt began to creep into his mind. Had the U-boat, his only salvation, even been sent? Unknown to Heyda, beneath the waves, precisely on schedule, the German submarine U-536, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Rolf Schauenberg, had already arrived. The U-536, a massive deep-ocean hunter, was a formidable Type 9 Sea Leviathan, forged for incredible endurance. This prowling giant could slice through waves at a steady 10 knots, traversing over 13,850 nautical miles, enough for multiple Atlantic crossings, enabling it to stalk vast oceans for extended periods. Submerged, it could operate for up to 63 nautical miles at 4 knots, a range suited for localized maneuvers or evasive action. Its mission was clear: to retrieve the prized U-boat commanders. Schauenberg had orders to rendezvous at this very point to snatch the escapees from the Canadian grasp. He'd waited in the middle of the bay for 2.5 tense days. The cone of light from the Maisonnette Point lighthouse was conveniently quite visible, a steady, welcoming beam across the water. On this particular night, the visibility was perfect. Schauenberg brought U-536 to the surface to ventilate the boat, allowing it to cruise along the coast, running silently on its electric motors. All seemed quiet. Unknown to Schauenberg, a welcoming party awaited him. Lieutenant Commander Desmond Piers, a sharp officer of the Royal Canadian Navy, commanded the counter-operation. Piers, a pioneer Canadian naval officer, had fearlessly guided destroyers through the Battle of the Atlantic and D-Day, earning renown for his aggressive leadership. Piers had assembled a powerful force, far beyond what any U-boat commander would expect in seemingly safe coastal waters. On the shore, near the Maisonnette Point lighthouse, a portable surface radar array had been secretly established. Its unseen pulses silently swept the waters, awaiting the U-boat's arrival. Hidden nearby, a 10-strong Canadian task force sealed off the bay, with HMCS Rimouski at its heart. This nimble Flower-class corvette, a vital warhorse of the Battle of the Atlantic, displaced 925 long tons and stretched 205 feet. She could sprint at 16 knots with a 3,500 nautical mile range. Armed with a 4-inch gun and 40 depth charges, Rimouski was purpose-built to defend convoys. For this daring mission, she sported an experimental, revolutionary diffused lighting camouflage designed to render her almost invisible in the night. Piers and his task group waited, their ships cloaked in the shadows, their crews poised, their hydrophones listening. As U-536 idled on the surface, a signal flashed from the shore, a light, precisely the one the escapees were supposed to use. It was a Canadian deception, a lure. Schauenberg's initial caution deepened. His U-boat's hydrophones, sensitive ears beneath the waves, began to pick up an unsettling murmur, the faint rhythmic pulse of multiple propellers nearby. A chill went down his spine. This was no empty bay. Then, a sharp radio signal cut through the air, quote, "Komm, komm." It was a German phrase, an invitation. The U-536's radio operator caught it, but it was not repeated. A moment later, the light signal from the beach pulsed again, urging, quote, "Komm." Something was profoundly wrong. The signals were there, but the sounds beneath the waves, the quiet hum of Canadian warships, contradicted the desperate beckoning. Schaunberg, a veteran of countless patrols, trusted his instincts. He chose to remain submerged, his submarine a dark shadow beneath the deceptively calm surface. On the beach, the Canadian sentries waited, alert. Heyda decided to move, as remaining concealed would only mark him as suspicious. He strolled up, easy in his tourist getup. The guards moved to intercept, sudden and precise. He handed over his papers, a fake army discharge, a forged letter from Admiral Percy. They didn't blink. Eyes scanned every line, every crease. The silence dragged, heavy and sharp. Then, movement. Fast hands, firm grips. Heyda was in custody. Back at the patrol shack, the phone rang once, sharp and loud. Commander Pierce picked up. The voice on the line was tense, controlled. A man claiming to be a tourist had been taken into custody. Pierce spoke softly, without pause, quote, "Bring him to me, and guard him, closely." Pierce had been informed that a single prisoner had managed to slip away from Bowmanville, and knew this was likely his man. When Heyda was brought to the lighthouse, Pierce patiently listened to his improbable tale of a disrupted vacation. Heyda presented his forged letters, but Pierce, familiar with Admiral Percy's actual signature, immediately noted the telltale flaw. The Germans had not matched distinctive, oversized flourish. The game was over for Heyda. He was taken to the upper room of the lighthouse. There, a naval officer greeted him with a chilling politeness, almost like a long-lost friend, quote, "There you are, Lieutenant Commander Heyda. Welcome to Maisonette Point. We even relighted this lighthouse, as in good old peacetime, so that your comrade commander would find his way." The irony was palpable. Jean Godin, the former lighthouse keeper, now on active duty with the Régiment de la Chaudière, had been specifically transferred to Maisonette Point to run the lighthouse for this very operation, a beacon of Allied deception. Miles offshore, Schaunberg, still submerged, scanned the dark beach with his binoculars, searching for a genuine signal, an uncorrupted sign from the escapees. He carefully avoided the bright beam of the Maisonette Point lighthouse. Suddenly, a new ethereal light flooded the northern sky, the mesmerizing dance of the aurora borealis, the northern lights. At that precise moment, a chilling sound echoed through the U-boat as the crew reported a call for them. It was the unmistakable deep thrum of warships. Schaunberg bellowed in alarm and ordered the dive, his urgent voice cutting through the hum of the submarine. Just as U-536 plunged deeper, the terrifying rumble of depth charges detonating ripped through the water above them. The Canadian task force, now fully unleashed, hunted throughout the night. Their powerful sonar pings swept the bay, seeking their elusive prey. Depth charges rained down, their concussions shaking the very water, but time and again, they missed their mark. As dawn broke on September 27, 1943, the vast expanse of Charleroi Bay lay empty, deceptively peaceful. No trace of the U-boat could be found. Despite the intense, relentless pursuit, U-536, with remarkable skill and perhaps a touch of luck, had evaded the Canadian trap. After 2 days of tense cat-and-mouse maneuvering, Schaunberg managed to guide his U-boat from the sealed bay, slipping past the waiting warships and into the open sea. Once safely beyond the reach of the Canadian hunters, a message flashed from U-536 back to Germany, a stark, 2-word summary of the failed mission, quote, "Kibitz verpfiffen." Kibitz betrayed. The operation, years in the making, had been thwarted. U-536's escape from Charleroi Bay gave Captain Lieutenant Rolf Schaunberg only a brief reprieve. Weeks later, in late 1943, near the Azores, Allied warships, HMCS Snowbury, HMCS Calgary, and HMS Nene, cornered and destroyed the sub. 38 men were lost, but Schaunberg survived, plucked from the Atlantic, and sent to a POW camp in Canada. An ironic fate, given his mission to rescue others. For Otto Kretschmer, release came much later. After 7 years behind wire, he was freed on December 31st, 1947. The Bowmanville camp returned to its peacetime role as a school, its wartime shadows fading. In 1995, a quiet gesture closed the circle. Sir Donald McIntyre, who had captured Kretschmer, returned the Germans' binoculars. Enemies once, now just men with shared history. And in 2013, the site of their story was formally remembered. Camp 30 became a National Historic Site, sealing its legacy in Canada's wartime past.